I'd first like to start out with you guys closing your eyes again. Now, we're on a paved road and it stretches out into the horizon. We're cruising along at 60 miles per hour. Both to your left and to your right, you see green blurs. These are the cañaverales, also known as the sugarcane fields. And these stalks have green leaves on them that lazily wave at you, almost reaching towards you. And they also reach out into the sky, which is an amazing blue, similar to the color of the ocean on which this island is resting on. But you notice that every so often, when you look into the green blurs, there's a dark blur, and you wonder what it is. All right, now open your eyes. I would experience these sort of car trips every 2 weeks when I lived in the Dominican Republic for the 7th and 8th grade. And I would experience these car trips with my parents. And for us, it was 3 hours of family bonding. We would laugh, we would sing, we sometimes cried, we got lost, and we were always surrounded by these beautiful, beautiful sugarcane fields. But like I mentioned, there were always these dark blurs as we whizzed by the sugarcane fields. And I soon found out that those were Haitian workers. Now, when we arrived to our home, I lived in a gated community. And every morning, there would be a truck full of Haitians that would arrive to my community, and they would, unload the bus. And the Haitians did a lot of gardening work. They would flower plants. They would make sure that the lawns were trimmed and very green. They would sweep the streets. And so eventually my family and I noticed that there was a Haitian that sort of always cleaned around our street. We decided to make an effort to know him because he was very friendly and he was always smiling. And so we introduced ourselves to him in our broken French, because Haitians speak a dialect of French called Creole. And he introduced himself to us as Maxime in his broken Spanish. And as I said, we really took a liking to Maxime. And every time that he would be working on our street, we made an effort to extend a glass of water to him. Working in the Dominican Republic, it's a very hot country, and it's a scorching sun. And the sweat that was on his face, his body, everywhere, was very apparent. And initially, Maxime would refuse the glass of water until, several days later, he finally, accepted the glass of water. But when he accepted it, he looked behind his shoulder. And I found that very weird because he wasn't being watched by anyone. Several days later, Maxime stopped cleaning on our street. I thought, oh, well, he must have been relocated or something, and didn't think of it again. So then I attended a private school for the first time in 7th grade, and I am of Dominican heritage, but it was the first time I'd ever experienced Dominican culture. Going to the school was very eye-opening. And I heard a lot of odd things during the school, and I thought they were just Dominican things or just random things that people were doing to mess with me, like, oh, there's a pool right next to the cafeteria, which there actually was, but you definitely didn't have to wear a Speedo, as I thought, to swim class. On my way to history class one day, I heard some students joking around and sort of like insulting each other, bantering, and one of them said, "Loco, tú si eres haitiano," which means, dude, you're so Haitian. And I was very confused by this. I thought it was just another weird Dominican thing, but what did that even mean? I wasn't completely sure. My eyes were really opened when I actually walked into history class, and we started learning about a dictator in the Dominican Republic called Rafael Leonidas Trujillo. And he was a dictator from 1930 to 1962. And there are 3 things that Trujillo is very well known for in the Dominican Republic. 1, he eliminated the external debt that the Dominican Republic had to the US. 2, he vastly improved the infrastructure in the Dominican Republic. And the 3rd thing that he did that many people recognize him for is that he killed 15,000 Haitians in what is known as the Parsley Massacre. And so it is called the Parsley Massacre because Haitians have a hard time pronouncing the J in the word perejil, which is parsley in Spanish. And so Dominican soldiers would go around and they would go up to anyone who was dark-skinned, and they would ask them to say the word perejil. And if they could not say the word correctly, then they were assumed to be Haitian and they were killed. That was the relationship that Dominicans and Haitians had back in the 1930s to 1960s. Nowadays, Haitians aren't directly killed, but the work that they do in the Dominican Republic might as well be killing them. They work in the sugarcane fields from dawn until dusk, every day. They have no health care. They do not have access to any public sort of hospitals, and no doctors will go out into the sugarcane fields to help them. They receive very meager pay. They can barely buy food for themselves, and so as a result, they gnaw on sugarcane stalk during the day to get their nutrients, but of course that doesn't provide them all nutrients. And one of the saddest things is that these Haitians aren't there because someone took them by force. They were all promised a better life in the Dominican Republic when they were smuggled from Haiti across the border into the Dominican Republic. The worst thing is that when these Haitians have children, those children are born without documents. And they have no identity, so they're neither Haitian nor Dominican. And if they were to travel back to Haiti, they'd have to be smuggled across the border again. There is this law in the Dominican Republic that says that you can't work unless you're 16, but since these children have no documents, they're easily out in the field at age 15, 13, maybe even 10. As many of us might have heard, there was genocide occurring in Darfur, Sudan. Currently in Argentina, there is very strong racial tensions between white Argentinians and those of mestizo and indigenous origins. The Dominican Republic is just one country where there are racial tensions and where genocide has occurred. And so these racial tensions cause conflict and they deteriorate humanity and how we progress towards the future. So what exactly can we do about that? Well, many people decide to go travel to these locations, and they join some sort of human rights organization. They help out directly through that. A lot of other people decide to take it upon themselves to raise awareness around their community. And one way for this example would be that there's this film called The Price of Sugar by Bill Haney that people have shared with their schools. And that's great and all, and eventually a lot of us will go on to do that, but every single one of us in this room right now can do something to end that tension between race and to end that intolerance towards each other. And the root of all that tension in the Dominican Republic is that intolerance towards each other. And so a way to solve it would be as simple for me to sort of extend that glass of water or to not use those racial slurs that my classmates use in class, or even you guys, before you start to actively, or not actively, I would hope, but before you go and say a racial slur or sort of go with the stereotype, I advise that you sort of double think about it. The idea is to dream big and then do it. And a lot of people always talk about peace, world peace. And we all dream it, but what can we do to do it? It would be to start tolerating ourselves, the people in our communities, and eventually that is what will extrapolate to world peace. It all starts with the tolerance towards each other. So I'd like you guys to close your eyes again. We're on the same road. The sky is still blue, and there are no clouds in it. To the left are the sugarcane fields, except that they no longer wave at you. Instead, they're trying to secretly hide the dark blurs that we noticed before. And those dark blurs won't reach out to you, but the question is, will you reach out to them?